Hello, welcome. It's the Johncast podcast. Crossing my fingers that I don't have to re-record this podcast. Oh no, I'm still not bitter at all. But welcome into the podcast. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to catch up on a couple of pregame interviews I've had over the last couple of weeks. In case you missed it, we are going to hear from Grace Egan ahead of the match the Badgers had that I want to talk about on Halloween night against number 1 and undefeated Nebraska. And then on Sunday, when the Badgers swept Ohio State, I had a chance to talk with associate head coach Brittany Dildine. So I wanted to bring you that conversation too. I thought she's had some really insightful answers about, kind of asking about that Nebraska match that I want you guys to hear. It's been a good week for me. Let's see. I went to, at the match on Friday, it was Halloween. So Pete and I dressed up as the R1 and the R2. Pete was able to secure some, referee shirts. He brought some whistles, and I've got the picture posted. I think I posted it on Facebook. It's on Instagram at Johncast Podcast. So go check it out. I posted it on X too. So that was fun. Not the result we wanted on the court. I'll say this though, man, did Fieldhouse, you brought it. Like you brought that energy at the start of the match. And when Wisconsin tied it at 18 in the first set, gosh, that's so electric. It's so electric when it's, the anticipation of the match, the crowd gets there, and then the crowd's loud. Like when all these things converge, and it converges a lot of times at the Fieldhouse, but especially in matches like this, and especially in the NCAA tournament. And it was awesome. It was just a different atmosphere walking in. I was walking in. I get there about 2 hours before every match. There were lines of people already there. Kelly had tweeted earlier in the day that the lines had started, I think, around 9 or 10 a.m. So people had been camped out, just waiting to get those general admission seats and just waiting to get in the building. On a Friday night, a little bit later start, the line started to get a little bit longer. I did do my walk and talk, walking outside amongst the fans. So if you missed that, you can check out my walk and talks on Instagram, Facebook, and on X too. So that was fun, just kind of seeing the lines of people. And then the match itself, a few things stand out. And I've got a couple of clips here from Kelly Sheffield talking about what stood out to him the most, and it's transition offense for the Badgers. And he breaks down the numbers of kind of like what they did against Ohio State and what happened in that match against Nebraska. But Nebraska hit almost 350. The Badgers hit $175. They were doing pretty good on almost all aspects of the match, except for transition offense, their side, and transition offense and defending that on Nebraska's side. And that's been one of the things that teams have been able to do that have beaten Wisconsin. They've been able to hold Wisconsin to low transition numbers. And on the flip side, Texas did this in the first match. I remember Gary giving me the transition numbers. Nebraska did this. Some of these more elite teams that they've played have been able to just transition wise, just really make a big impact in the match. And that's what we saw here. And then the Badgers defending the middles of Nebraska. Andy Jackson went 12 for 20 without an error, and Rebecca Alec went 7 kills, 13 attempts without an error. So those two had 19 of the 48 kills. They did not have a single hitting error. That was tough. I thought Una had a tough match for Wisconsin. Mimi, 239, 14 kills, 6 digs. She's doing Mimi things. Could those be a little bit better? Sure. Even if you asked her, I'm sure they'd say she needed to be better. The Badger middles both hit 200. Andrew and Carter Booth. So you see kind of the difference there in the middles on both sides and their impact upon the match. And the thing also that stood out, and we talk about this on the Kelly Sheffield Show, not on this clip, but on the Kelly Sheffield Show, which will be also posted to this podcast. And you can always catch it live on ESPN Madison, 100.5 ESPN Madison, and on the ESPN Madison YouTube channel. We did talk about Natalie Wardlow serving. Man, she looked great. She looked great behind the service line against Nebraska with the 4 aces. And then she carried that into the Ohio State match. What did she have at Ohio State? I know she had, I think, at least a couple of aces. Let me bring up the box score. Bear with me here for just a moment. Wardlow had 2 aces. Yeah. And that in percentage, I know the team wants it. They want that in percentage from Natalie a little bit higher, because when she does get it in, man, it wreaks havoc. And you saw that against Nebraska. Nebraska had to take out their libero. They had to take out Choboy at one point. Like, listen, Natalie's just giving them something that they can't handle right now. So, and then Kelly talks about as well on the Kelly Sheffield Show this week about the drop serve that Natalie has now added. So she's got that deep driving, penetrating serve, gets passers on their heels. And now against Ohio State at the end, she threw in a little drop serve that made them come forward, and it worked. So Natalie Wardlow behind the service line as a serving specialist could be key for the Badgers, because that changes the sets, that changes matches. When you can have someone that can come in and serve that dynamically. And Kelly said at the start of the season, the whole team is probably the most elite serving team they've had. They held Nebraska, I think he said, post-match to a 1.7, 1.8 passing, somewhere in that neighborhood. Gary said the same thing on the post-match show. And I mean, to put that in perspective, if you don't know, 3-point passing is perfect. That means you nailed every single pass within a match. But if you're around that 2.3, 2.4, that's pretty elite as a passing team. Anything under 2, nope. And the Badgers held the number 1 team in the country to under 2 passing, 1.7, 1.8, right around that range. It's that transition numbers that just kind of crushed Wisconsin. So let's talk about the transition stuff. So on the Kelly Sheffield Show this week, I'm going to play just a clip for you. Here's the Badger coach. I got 2 different clips for you talking about the transition numbers this weekend for his team. Here, let's take a listen to head coach Kelly Sheffield.
Yeah, I mean, we were converting in transition. That was something we did not do very well the match before that. That was our first ball side out. So first ball side out is when another team is serving the ball and you get the first swing at that. We hit over 300 against Nebraska in that, which are numbers wise in the Big Ten would be in the top half of what our FBSO has been in the Big Ten matches. So, I mean, that's really high percentage against that team. Our transition numbers were the lowest of the season. So we weren't converting in transition. So then you got to look a little deeper. Why is that? Is that the quality of the digs? Is that the quality of the sets? Is that the set decisions? Is that how our attackers are working? Is that the areas of the court that we are hitting? In that case, it was yes to all those. But I thought we transitioned a lot better in the Ohio State match. Now, granted, we're not seeing quite the same level of defense, from Ohio State. That there's probably more holes in their defense for us to get into. But I loved our effort.
Mm-hmm. So there you heard Kelly talk a little bit about those transition numbers, lowest of the season. Give credit to Nebraska's defense. They've got historically probably one of their best defenses, potentially one of their best defenses numbers wise, as far as opponent hitting percentage. But, Kelly in the Kelly Sheffield Show talked about how in transition, Wisconsin hit 130 against Texas, 171 against Penn State, and I think it was 188 against USC. And he just said that's the lowest. So it's below 130. I'm assuming there in transition, which is tough when the other team then takes their transition and, boosts it up even more, because after passing a 1.8, you get over whatever you can get over. Badgers can't convert, and then they come back and they're able to convert. So more on those transition numbers. Here's more from the head coach, Kelly Sheffield, on this week's Kelly Sheffield Show. I'm going to go back to the transition offense for just a second. And against Nebraska, you said it was one of the lowest of the season. And all those things that you then analyze after the fact, what went right, what went wrong. You said they kind of all didn't go in the right direction. Is there one that's more important? Like if the setter's decisions are better, is that usually tend to lead to better transition numbers, or can you pinpoint one? Or are they all kind of equal in balance?
It probably depends on who you're asking, right? Okay. If you're asking a setter, the setter is sitting there going, hey, my decision was just fine. My location, deal with it, and it's on the hitter, and vice versa. I mean, it's I don't know. You have a match like that, and I think sometimes people tend to look at just the results. We try to dive even deeper into that. For instance, that was the best passing match of the season for us. I mean, that is great. And right now it's the number 2 passing match of the season, because we passed even better than that against Ohio State, and that's great. I thought we did some nice things behind the service line. I think our first ball side out was really good. First ball side out has been an emphasis since Addie has taken over, that you're usually diving more into the serve receive and your serve receive offense and your out of system offense, and then transition tends to come a little bit later with the setter. And so we kind of, there's a little bit of a backing up when you have a new setter. I think that would be the case with, anybody that's, quarterback or point guard or whatever. I think that's just kind of a natural thing. And so transition is going to be a little bit more of an emphasis here in these next couple weeks. And, the numbers have been good. We've actually been the best transition offensive team in the Big Ten this year, by the numbers. And so, but that's indicative of how good Nebraska played that match, and credit to them.
Yeah, I think that's a good point there at the end. The best team in transition in the Big Ten, statistically, according to the head coach right there, throughout the course of the season. It's just these one-off matches against, some pretty good competition in Texas, Penn State, and Nebraska, to be specific on some of these losses. So a couple of things that I thought stood out: best passing match of the season up until the Ohio State game. So that's great. First ball side out was great. Would have been in the upper tier of what they've done this season. So that's awesome. The other team passed a 1.8. Boom. Let's go. You tell me all these things before the start of a match. As a fan, I'd be like, oh, cool. You're going to have the best passing day, and they're going to pass under a 2 at 1.8. And you're going to be pretty good on that first, what's the final box score look like, And then that, I guess maybe, I don't know, just me trying to figure this out maybe this just stresses how important that transition offense is for each team. It might be the deciding factor on what the Badgers do this season in the postseason. So there you go. A couple of clips from the head coach, Kelly Sheffield, on the Kelly Sheffield Show, which once again, you can hear on ESPN Madison and on the ESPN Wisconsin YouTube channel. And I'll have that posted after it airs on Wednesday. So you'll be able to listen to that Kelly Sheffield Show. There's some great fan questions in there as well on this episode of the Kelly Sheffield Show. So I highly suggest you go watch that. He talks about, there's a great question about Charlie, and if she comes back, what that transition into the lineup might be. And the Badgers are very open on that. And they're thinking about how that might work if Charlie comes back. Kelly was also very, he stressed on that episode that, if she comes back, she could come back tomorrow. She may not come back at all. It's a wait and see for sure. Okay, let's get you caught up on some of these pre-match interviews in case you missed them. Grace Egan, I had a chance to talk to her before the Badgers took on the Nebraska Huskers on Halloween. And here's that conversation with the redshirt sophomore.
What was it that made you want to transfer to Wisconsin?
Yeah, I think just the competitive nature and just seeing how the coaches produce All-Americans, national championship players, and just championship players in general. So I just know that this has a lot of history, so I had to choose Wisconsin.
What was it like getting back into volleyball after missing the first 7 matches of the Big Ten season, and how were you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too hard mentally. I think when I was out, I just focused on my volleyball IQ so that when I was on the court, it would just be smooth sailing. So just going back on the court has been just so much fun and just high energy.
Post-injury, we haven't seen the top spin serve, top spin serve, Is that something that may come back at some point this season, or what's the story behind that?
Right now, I mean, I'm going for accuracy and just keeping the ball in, especially late in games, especially at Oregon. I mean, just going for that run, we really needed it, and I think just accuracy was the best thing. So, but I have been practicing it, so we'll see.
Talking with Grace Egan. All right, so it's Halloween, big matchup against Nebraska. The fieldhouse is going to be jacked. How excited are the players for this match?
We're really excited. I mean, but we got to treat every big team the same, so we got to keep it calm before and just stick to the scout. But I think we're just really, really excited to play.
Does it help having that longer week to prepare for a team like Nebraska?
Yeah, actually we started off focusing on ourselves and our tendencies and just seeing what we can fix and change up so that teams don't expect the same thing. So we focused on ourselves in the beginning, but yeah, it helped a lot.
All right, so Halloween I mentioned. Did you have a favorite Halloween costume growing up? What was your best one?
I would actually say, oh my gosh, so my uncles, we all would dress up together, and I remember he dressed up as a Lego, and that was really funny, but I think my mermaid costume was the best. I would say I'm a mermaid at heart.
Okay. Is there a costume this year?
There's no costume this year.
Okay, no costume.
This year is my uniform.
Okay, very good. You're going as a volleyball player.
A volleyball player.
Favorite Halloween candy?
I would say Kit Kats. Okay. Yeah, I'd say Kit Kats or like something gummy. I love gummy.
Okay, very good. I also have to ask you about your nickname, Egan.
Yes.
Who made that up? What's that all about? I mean, I get it.
Yeah, no, I actually started in high school where I remember Lexi Rodriguez, which is funny. She would just call me Egan. The whole team would call me Egan. But I remember Kelly would be like, is it Egan or is it Egan? I'm like, you pick. So Egan it is.
All right, thanks, Grace.
Yes, thank you.
There you go. That's Grace Egan. I'm going to take you behind the scenes during that interview while it was playing. I don't know if this has affected the podcast, but my computer screen went blank. I hope this is still recording. All right, let's continue on. In case you missed it, I had a chance to speak with associate head coach Brittany Dildine ahead of the Ohio State match, and we talked a little bit about her reaction to the Nebraska loss on Friday. Here's that conversation in case you missed it.
I want to start with Friday night. What do you think the team took away from that loss against Nebraska?
Well, honestly, I do know that answer, by now. We've had some time to kind of discuss it, and from, film sessions with the players and kind of discussions of what they actually took from it, I'm going to summarize that losing can be exciting in a sense of we certainly, I think, are closer than what we thought going into that match. We have a lot of inexperienced players, right, that where they believe that they can win, now they know they can win. Right. There's one thing that is belief, and there's another thing where there's certain things on video that you can see it. And we didn't do it consistent enough. We didn't do it aggressively enough. Right. Mimi was trying to place, for example, on the court with her attacking. I think she's finding out by the third set that Mimi offensively is right there and should not try to avoid any block or any defender on that side of the floor. Right. Because she's hitting really aggressive and high. I mean, those last 3 or 4 kills that she had, it was really powerful. It was above them. It was in different places along the court, extreme angles and shots. And once you kind of get into that, you've kind of learned, all right, that's the bar. And then you see, we can get to that, right? And there's aspects of the game that we just really haven't been able to fine tune yet, and it's really the greatest gap is our transition game. Our transition game in the Nebraska loss and in the USC loss, that's our biggest gap. And so how do we convert off of the digs that we're having at a higher clip than what our opponents are doing that also play good defense? But they are putting the ball away, and we need to figure out a way to put a ball away in the transition game. And when you're switching setters at the time that we did, you can't just run the team into the ground with a bunch of transition drills. And so we're progressively getting better little by little in different aspects of the game. And, we've got a month. Until that tournament time right now. And so we feel like there's a plan coming out of that.
Now, you just faced the best team in the conference. Now you get to face the last place team in the conference. What's that dynamic going to be like?
I think regardless of their record, overall, Ohio State has a few players coming in and out throughout a match. And so when you've got kind of a revolving door of lineups and you've got mixing rotations of what rotations they're going to start in, the only decision that you have in that moment is to play the best volleyball you can as a team. Because you can't really necessarily block scheme. You can't have an offensive scheme when they're constantly changing things, and that's probably a good part on Ohio State. They need that in their favor, right? So how you beat an Ohio State is you play the best volleyball that you can your way. And so fortunately, the focus is on us. That probably would have been the conversation no matter who we played coming into, this Sunday's match, but it works out that our opponent actually does fit that narrative as well.
Thanks, Britt.
Thank you.
Thought that was interesting, really interesting at the end about just kind of how the schedule happened to set up is that when you face Nebraska, now you get Ohio State, and all you have to focus on is just being your best. I think that's a good way to follow up a tough loss, right? You learn from the loss to Nebraska, and she touched on the transition numbers too. And then thankfully the next match was just go out there and be your best, because this other team is shuffling things around at times. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. And I like that she pointed that out. All right. Hey, let's wrap this up. Shout out to my daughter's middle school volleyball team. Lost in the second round of the tournament, but they had a great season. At one point had an 11-set winning streak this year. So that was great. Shout out to everybody on that team. And yeah, that's what I wanted to give, was a shout out. All right. That's it. That's going to do it for the podcast this week. Don't forget Kelly Sheffield Show. That'll air before the Minnesota match on Wednesday. Wisconsin versus Minnesota. Catch it on the ESPN Wisconsin app. ESPN Madison locally too. I think that one's on WTMJ on Wednesday, I believe. Maybe. You know what? ESPN Wisconsin app, you're going to find it. How about that? Go to the ESPN Wisconsin app. You're going to find it. 7:05 first serve. Badgers take on the 22nd ranked Golden Gophers. Then on Sunday, Wisconsin hosts number 18 Indiana at the Fieldhouse just after 1 p.m. on the ESPN Wisconsin app and the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network. I think I've done everything. Halloween, shout out to my daughter. All right, we're good. Thanks for listening or watching this episode of the John Cast Podcast.